Hey everybody, it's Aaron from WPKB, and in this video we're going to continue on through easy social share buttons for WordPress. We've already covered the quick configuration wizard and the template settings in main settings here, so what we're going to do is move on to the social share buttons settings themselves. This is a little bit in depth, so sit tight while we go through it. The first option we have is what actual buttons we want to display on our website. Now currently we're using Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, Tumblr, email share, and that's it. Maybe you want to set up something else. Maybe you want to set up Wats App sharing. You can do that. You can add a more button, and then we get down to the configuration after we've chosen what buttons we'd actually like. So the more button function, what do you want it to do? The default is to display all active networks after the more button. You can display them as a pop-up or display only active social networks as a pop-up. We're just going to leave it as display all active networks. Then you can choose the alignment of the buttons. We've chosen center. We did that when we ran through the quick configuration wizard. But you can change that to left or right, of course, if you would like to do that. Next, we can choose to enable full width share buttons. So it'll make the buttons the full width of the post content area. We'll turn that one on as well, because then we can go and have a look at actually how that impacts the look of the buttons on the website. Next, we can choose to set the width of the share buttons by ourselves as a percentage of the overall width of that post content area. You would say if you wanted it to be 20%, you would just put in 20 there. You don't need to put in the percentage symbol. We're not going to utilize that at the moment. The same option also is there for you below, but strictly for when mobile visitors are on the website. Then you can set the max width of buttons in full width display mode. And here is just where you would set the maximum width of the actual buttons container. The default's 100. If you wanted to sort of group them a little bit more centrally, you would change this to any other percentage. You might choose 75 or something like that. Just remembering to leave off the percentage symbol. We're not going to do anything there at the moment. We're just going to get rid of that. And as we come down, we can choose to set a fixed width share buttons option here. So you can do that. Then you would put in a pixel value without the px. So maybe you want a 200. You would just put in 200. We're not going to do anything there at the moment. Just going to leave it on the defaults because it looks better on the defaults, in my opinion, especially on a responsive website as well. And then just below this, we get to choose the alignment of the network name. Center is the default. That's what we're going to leave it on. But of course, you can choose left or right alignment if that's sort of a path you want to go down. Then we get through to some additional Twitter options. We've already set up the short URL for Twitter sharing. We've done this earlier in a video where we went through the configuration wizard. We're using the WP get short link URL shortener because it's the easiest to use. There's no additional setup that you are required to make there. Then we've just put in a Twitter username to be mentioned. You can put in the Twitter username of your own site if you want that there, but of course it's totally fine to leave this blank as well. You can choose to add that Twitter username to buffer shares because a lot of people will use buffer to, share their content in different ways. And you can also use a default hashtag or hashtag. So you might choose that, and then you might want to choose WordPress as well. That would probably make sense for us to be using something such as that. And if you're having any issues with actually people sharing using the Twitter button, you can enable this option. And this can help alleviate the issue that people are clicking the share button and it's opening, but it's not actually going to the correct URL to actually share the content. And then our final Twitter option is to make Twitter always count the full post or page address when using the short URL, which means that just you get a more accurate view of how many times a particular URL has been shared on that particular social network. We're going to turn that one on. Then we just have one Pinterest additional option there, which is to disable Pinterest Sniff for images. And as it says here, if you disable that, the plugin will automatically use the share post featured image or the custom image you provided. So we're just going to leave that off. You should have a better sharing experience on Pinterest by not actually turning that checkbox on. Then we get down to some additional Facebook options. Now, if you want to have a custom share message and so on, you need to have a Facebook application set up with an application ID, which you would then input just into this field here. We don't actually have one set up for this particular website for this tutorial series, so we're just going to leave that one off because setting up a Facebook application can be a little bit tricky if you're not too technically minded and it's not something you've done before, but it's not that hard. So if you want to actually really take your Facebook sharing to the next level, I'd recommend setting up a Facebook application, and then you can go through with this. And then we just scroll down a little bit more and we get to display Facebook total count. You would enable this if you wanted to actually display the total count, not only the share count from your website. It's a recommended option. We obviously recommend turning it on. And just below this we have Flatter options. Now if you're using Flatter to share content, or your content's being shared there, you can set this up pretty easily. So you would first put in the Flatter account to which the buttons would be assigned. So it might be WPKB for us. And then you can put in tags. So it might be WordPress and tutorial, or something like that. Then you can choose a default category: text, image, audio, video, and so on, and a default language. We'll set that to English. Then we just get down to stumble upon options, and all we have here is to do not generate short links for stumble upon. Really, that one's up to you if you want to use it or not. And just below this we have the additional printing options. So what you can use is the printfriendly.com service instead of the default print function. I recommend seeing if the default print function works on the website first before trying that out. You can use that as a method of actually troubleshooting. And then just finally we come down to the Wats App Settings. So as you can see here, if people are sharing your content on or using Wats App, it'll have the full URL. But by selecting this, you can use a short URL, and again you get to choose the service used, and once again we're going to leave that on WP get short link. And with that done, we're just going to click on update to save those settings that we've configured now. We can see we've got the message saying settings are saved, and that's where we're going to wind up this particular video. We've gone through the social share buttons options. There's quite a lot of them there, so hopefully you've been able to stay on point with this video. If you are going through it, you're a little bit confused, pause it, go back through it, make sure it's set up and you understand actually what's going on. And of course, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed the video, hit subscribe for more.